Hey guys, welcome back to Sinnoh. This is the series where I'm building the entire Sinnoh region from the Generation 4 Pokemon games in City Skylines 2. Today, we are moving on to our 7th settlement, Eterna City. As always, we will start with connection infrastructure, then dive straight into shaping the city core. We'll be adding some iconic spots like Eterna Gym and Team Galactic HQ, and we'll spend a good amount of time detailing the urban environment to give the city a cozy and charming feel. Something that really makes Eterna stand out as a place worth visiting in Sinnoh. We'll also be paying special attention to road design, subtle infrastructure elements, and public spaces to bring the whole area together in a believable way. So yeah, join me as we continue expanding the region. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and let's dive in. As usual, we are starting off with some infrastructure projects, something that really sets Sinnoh apart. In this build, I'm not just placing roads for functionality, I also try to imagine how infrastructure blends with the surrounding environment, making each connection feel natural and believable. One of the key elements in this episode is the road that links Eterna City to the rest of the island, especially to the greater Jubilife City agglomeration, and this road was originally destined to cut straight through Eterna Forest, starting from the northern edge of Florama town, where I already built a bridge in the previous episode. But instead of letting it slice through the heart of the forest, damaging the local ecosystem and the unique natural landscape, I decided to reroute the road along the shoreline. That's where this new section comes in. One part of this road is hidden into a tunnel, but the second one is actually a little bit exposed, and I think of it as a semi-hidden highway, partially embedded beneath the terrain, with an open ocean-facing side if you are driving out of Eterna City. And I used these pillar props to create custom support structure, making sure it integrated well with the surrounding forest. And to help it blend with the environment even more, the top of the structure is covered with trees and bushes, almost like it disappears into the landscape. I really liked how it turned out, and I think even the environmentalists of Sinnoh would appreciate this. The forest remains largely untouched, and the integrity of Eterna Forest is preserved. And for those who may not be familiar with Eterna Forest, especially if you're coming from the City Skylines 2 side of things, this is a major wooded area located between Florama town and Eterna City in the original Pokemon games. It is a pretty large forest filled with wild Pokemon encounters and different side content, and it is actually one of the more memorable areas in the game, especially early on. In this series, I want to capture not just the cities, but also these key natural areas that shape how the region functions. So Eterna Forest will definitely get its own attention, partially in this episode, and in some other episodes as well. I have something a little bit more special in mind for how it will be developed beyond just planting a lot of trees. And what we'll be doing today, working on this major piece of infrastructure that passes beneath it, essentially a chunk of Route 205, which runs along the coast and eventually leads into Eterna City. And to handle this traffic flow, I will be building this custom interchange right before the city. Part of this interchange will branch off toward Snowpoint City, which by the way isn't originally connected this way in the games, but for this build it made sense. Instead of forcing traffic to go all the way through the mountain Coronet range, this coastal road offers a more direct and realistic way to travel by car from Jubilife City up to Snowpoint City. And yeah, this interchange is fairly simple by design. I didn't want to go with the typical cloverleaf or overcomplicated stack structures. Instead, I opted for something a bit more elegant, and this three-way interchange inspired by designs I always liked. It basically connects Eterna City, Jubilife, and Snowpoint City with a smooth directional splits that help keep traffic flowing without overwhelming the environment. And now we start to work on the Eterna City infrastructure. I didn't want to spend so much of the episode just focusing on the roads, but as always laying down the foundations is crucial. I actually went through a couple of iterations here. The first layout didn't feel quite right, so I ended up scrapping it and rebuilding the entire thing from scratch, which is also why Eterna City took a bit longer to complete than other towns and cities. And some of the early ideas were tested and then tossed out, but like always, the road network really defines how the rest of the city comes together. It is the skeleton the entire build is built on. For Eterna, I wanted to create a layout that made sense from both a gameplay and traffic perspective, since the city connects directly to multiple towns and cities in the region. It was important to get the scale and flow right from the beginning. The first major connection we already built that leads straight to Eterna feeds wide main road and cuts across the city. This is actually a pre-built road, also coming from Oreburg, and I've designed it as a city central spine, let's say. Some sections of it are preserved for bike lanes, as you will see later, as I wanted cycling to play a key role in how Eterna feels and functions. Then there is the rail infrastructure. Eterna sits at the crossroads of two important corridors. One rail line comes from Oreburg and another connects from Floroma Town and Jubilife City. These two will merge here before continuing north toward Snowpoint City. So this was important to design the city in a way that integrates those rail connections naturally as well. And finally, this route 205, the one we started earlier, ends here also in Eterna. This links the city directly with the broader Jubilife agglomeration, tying it all together. And here's a quick overview of how Eterna City fits into the region. We've got Route 206, the cycling road and the main transport corridor connecting to Oreburg City, and Route 205 leading back to Jubilife. The highway will also continue up towards Snowpoint City from that interchange, and then the train lines from Jubilife and Floroma and Oreburg all converge here before heading north. And there is also a mountain road planned cutting through Mountain Cornet and eventually connecting to Celestic Town. So that's the high level layout. Now let's move into the city core. And now we're getting into the part where I start developing Eterna City itself. While working on this build, I debated whether to split it across 2 episodes, but in the end I decided to wrap the entire city into one. It was a bit of a challenge, and some areas like repetitive low-rise sections are left out, but I really wanted to set the tone for how the city feels, and of course will be still covering the major landmarks like the Eterna Gym. And the layout went through a few iterations. The first version didn't feel quite right, so I ended up rebuilding it from scratch, but that's often how it goes. The road network sets the skeleton for the whole build, and getting it right is the key. I had a few goals with this city's atmosphere. First, it had to reflect its location and in-game representation, especially how it appeared in some of the official Pokemon concept art, which really inspired me. With all these new asset packs available, particularly the American ones and Chinese building packs, I decided to blend multiple architectural styles to create something unique. Most of Eterna is low-rise, with buildings around 2 to 5 stories tall, so while it might feel like a town in a real-world scale, it still reads as a city in the Pokemon world. The overall vibe I was going for is calm, charming and livable, tucked between the mountains and bordered by lush Eterna Forest. Eterna City has a very strong connection to nature. You'll see a lot of trees, walkable streets, and varied architecture, some parts more modern, some older, even slightly worn down, but all designed to give a cozy, layered sense of history. In the city center, I tried to mix what I think are historic style buildings. Many of them are from Dragon Gate Pack, to emphasize Eterna's role as one of the more historic cities in Sinnoh. The urban core is especially walkable, with pleasant perspectives and carefully framed views. One of my favorite touches is the view from the train station, where you can see the gym at the far end, a little moment that recreates the feeling of arriving in Eterna as a trainer, and these small immersive elements help bring the city to life and make it feel like a place you would really want to visit or even live in. You might notice that Eterna City is a mix of several architectural styles, and that's very much intentional. Throughout this area, I've used a variety of building packs, mostly focusing on low-rise and middle zone structures. For some of the lower density zones, I turned to the Japanese pack, which offers some really charming low-rise buildings and still carry those distinct Japanese design vibes. Now you'll also see some of more unexpected combinations here, therefore, like mixing Japanese and Chinese assets or blending southwestern and northeastern US styles. From a strict real-world geographic perspective, that kind of mix might seem odd or even inappropriate, but I'm approaching this from a different angle. This is a fictional world, a reinterpretation of Sinnoh, and I'm building from a creative view rather than just trying to replicate real-world urban planning norms. And honestly, all the buildings I placed here just felt right for the spots they ended up in. In the end, the mix helped me to create the atmosphere I was aiming for: charming, slightly historic, nestled in nature, and layered with subtle architectural diversity. And if you're enjoying how Eterna City is coming together and you support the vision behind this project, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. This really helps a lot and makes sure you don't miss on the future episodes as we continue to build out the Sinnoh region. And now you can see me placing the first building directly inspired by Pokemon lore, though not from the games themselves. This is Eterna Historical Museum, which appears in the Pokemon anime as one of the few museums in Sinnoh region, alongside the one in Ouroboros City. It is a nice bit of extended lore I wanted to include in this build, and for the museum I chose a Chinese high school building from the asset pack, which gave off kind of historic institutional vibe I was looking for. It has these beautiful pagoda style roofs that felt just right, especially once integrated into the surrounding cityscape. Sure, it contrasts a bit with some of the Western and American style buildings nearby, but in the end it works surprisingly well. It gives the area a sense of depth and layered history, which fits Eterna's slightly older, more reflective personality. To finish off this section, I started filling in the remaining areas with row style buildings, some of my favorites in the game right now. There is a great variety available, and they are perfect for forming clean, detailed blocks, and that bring a lot of visual depth to the city. You will see me continue with the style a bit later on, but for now we're getting to the main highlight of this episode, the Eterna City Gym. This is going to be one of the more exciting parts of the build. The gym is not only an iconic location from the games, but it also plays a key role in how the city feels, tied into the forest, tied into the nature, and of course representing the grass type theme Eterna is known for. Now let's dive into the part where I start building the Eterna City Gym, a really exciting and important moment in this episode. To reflect its grass type theme, I wanted the gym and its surroundings to have a pleasant, nature-filled atmosphere. I designed it as a two-part structure, starting with the main gym building itself. For that I used one of the commercial buildings from the leisure venues pack, which reminded me a bit of an old greenhouse or even an orangery. It kind of has this mix between a classic station and a greenhouse, which worked really well for this setting. This building serves as the main inner gym area where I imagine trainers might battle before facing the gym leader. It also stands out visually from the rest of the city, making it a landmark that trainer would immediately recognize as they pass through. The second part is the arena, which was inspired by Roman amphitheaters, a kind of sunken bowl carved into a landscape. I wanted it to feel embedded into nature, with a stepped structure acting as seating for the crowd, leading down to the battle area itself. I used decorative elements like pillar tops to create those stepped stands, and it took quite a while to piece it all together in a way that felt balanced, but I still wanted to keep it fairly minimalistic and grounded, almost like the arena is a part of the terrain, not built on top of it. To Together, the upper building and the arena below create a unified experience, with the gym being not just a place for battles, but also a multi-purpose space where Eterna might host community events, shows or festivals. The whole structure is oriented toward the Eterna Forest, making it symbolic, like trainers are emerging from the forest to face their challenge. The view from the top of the gym offers a full forest skyline, and the surroundings are heavily planted with trees and greenery, blending the whole area into the natural parkland that transitions between the forest and the city. Visually and thematically, I was also inspired by how the gym looked in the Pokemon anime, where the battlefield was filled with trees and bushes, making it a true advantage for grass-type Pokemon. I carried that idea over into the arena design here, where half of the battlefield incorporates trees and organic elements, making it feel like the forest is part of the gym itself. Later on, I also revisited the sitting area to make it feel more comfortable, somewhere where visitors could actually enjoy their time watching a gym battle. So with that, I invite you to sit back and watch how the Eterna Gym comes together piece by piece as a key landmark for the city and strong reflection of its identity. With this section of trees planted, you can really see how the hybrid arena concept starts to come together. One half of the battlefield is covered in greenery, trees, bushes and natural elements, giving the grass-type Pokemon plenty of space to hide, strategize and use their environment to their advantage. That part of the design was really important to me and makes the whole arena feel unique. At this point, the structure was nearly complete. The last thing I still had to address was the seating arrangement for visitors, which I'll come back a bit later in the episode to make sure it feels comfortable and realistic. For now, we are moving into the next major section of the build, expanding Eterna City, with some low density residential zones, commercial zones, and I'll also be placing another key building from Pokemon lore as part of this expansion, so let's jump into the next part and continue shaping Eterna into a city full of detail and character. And now we are getting into the part where I continue expanding Eterna City, starting with this pleasant cafe from Leisure Venue Pack. Big shout out to Grooney, the creator of this asset. It's one of many great buildings I've used throughout Eterna, and I definitely plan to include more of them in future builds. It really helps to bring that cozy lived-in vibe to smaller districts like this. You can also see me placing a secondary road here, which will eventually lead out towards more rural landscapes, right on the edge of the Eterna Forest. It is another subtle entry point to the city, passing through a low-rise residential area where I decided to use buildings from the Japanese pack. I've already used this pack in Jubilife, but in Eterna it feels even more fitting. The city has a bit of historical feel, and many of the low-rise structures in the Japanese pack have that kind of weeded old town charm that integrates nicely with the surrounding forest and parkland. And moving on to the entrance from the Oreburg side, this is where the bike lane connects to the city. The main road here is designed to be bike friendly as well, with cycling lanes on both sides connecting the regional network all the way from 206. And right at this key road I placed a building inspired by the bike shop from the original games, but here I imagined something a bit more developed, more like commercial center. This version of bike shop acts not only as a place to buy a bike, but also a spot where trainers and bikers can stop for repairs, get spare parts, or even park their bikes and maybe even dine a little bit. I've added a few details around it to make the place feel functional and welcoming, and something I imagine every biker traveling through Sinnoh would have marked on their map. From here you'll also see me continuing to expand the bike infrastructure across Eterna, making sure it's not just one-time visual, but a visible, usable feature throughout the city. Now you can also see me placing down this custom welcome sign, something I've designed uniquely for every city in Sinnoh, and you might have seen me placing it in Florama Town, and now Eterna City gets its own version as well. And from there I continued working on the city's entrance. I used some netlink markings to suggest traffic slowing down at these tolls, essentially signaling, basically the stall zone for cars. And this toll applies to those entering from the Oreburg City Road 206. And the idea behind this was that the road is fast and well maintained and a part of large infrastructure projects, so having a toll here makes good sense. But if you didn't want to pay, you would still have the option to use smaller regional roads. It felt like, realistic trade-off. On the bike path there is a smaller toll station too. Just a little detail. I wanted to reinforce that even bikers have to pass through a formal entrance, and this whole concept was inspired by those gate buildings in the Pokemon games, the ones you pass through when entering a new city, and I thought toll zones could be a creative way to represent that system in a more grounded and realistic way, and the maintenance costs of this road will be somehow taken care of, even though tolls are not functional yet. And after finishing up that area, I went back to the gym and its surroundings to give a bit more of a park-like feel. I didn't want to spend too much time here, just refining the roads, planting some trees and focusing on a small special area I really liked working on. And that area is a lake located right at the edge of Eterna Forest. It is actually placed based on the original Sinnoh map I used as inspiration, and I really like the idea of keeping it, and it adds this beautiful natural touch, and I imagined it being used as a chill spot with maybe a few boats stored in this building, and quite camping site or a picnic area where people could relax and spend time by the water. And finally, I returned to the gym's sitting area to wrap things up properly here. I used planters and lots of wooden benches to create a more refined and comfortable space for spectators of Pokemon matches. Instead of sitting on plain stone, visitors now have these wooden benches built into the steps, making the arena feel more inviting and designed for people, not just structure. And this final layer of detailing helped bring gym stands to life and overall created a cozy, green and functional space that fits perfectly with Eterna's character. And now with these final touches getting done in the Eterna Gym, let's get into the part where I start designing this small little square, just a cozy spot to add more character to the city. I'll be placing down a few more buildings here as well, adding some detail and continuing to fill out Eterna City. Along the way, this will become a major residential expansion, helping the city feel more complete and lived in. So when I was planning Eterna City, I really wanted to have a central spot, not just a park, but a place where residents could relax within the city itself. Since Eterna is very much a park city with large green spaces blending into Eterna Forest, this area was meant to feel a bit more urban and structured while still keeping that natural charm. And to help design the layout, I actually used AI assistants that helped me sketch out the general kind of path pattern and park feel, and then I added my own layers of detail and imagination to shape it into something that fit Eterna's character. I imagined this space as the kind of area where you would have the statue of legendary Pokemon from the games. Yeah, it is a key feature in the original games, and it is very iconic spot in Eterna City, but replicating it perfectly is a bit tricky in City Skylines too. So maybe I would love to hear your ideas. What would you place in the center of this square to represent that legendary Pokemon statue, or to capture the spirit of that location in your own way? Let me know in the comments. I'm open to suggestions and might even feature them in a future update. Now, we also have this smaller square that I wanted to make a bit more lively. It's located right next to the central station, which will likely be one of the first places people experience when arriving to Eterna City. I imagined this area as a pedestrian-friendly space surrounded by cafes, restaurants and little shops, somewhere that immediately gives the charm of the city. And that's something I really enjoy about Eterna. It has these walkable zones where you can explore the city not just on the roads, but through long pleasant avenues with minimal car traffic. It is a vibe I appreciate a lot in real-life European cities too, where walking is a part of the experience, and I'm quite a fan of it. So usually I try to implement walkability into the cities, and I really enjoy. And the train arrives to Eterna City, a lot of people are flocking out to the square and are distributed among streets later. As a part of this segment, I also started on the second major expansion of Eterna City. This part mostly followed the same style as before, copy-pasting the block structures I have already used in order to keep it consistent, but in one of the small corners I decided to mix it up by placing some taller, more modern residential buildings, and these were inspired by the apartment blocks you would see in Pokemon games in Eterna City. That has basically, a few of these slightly taller structures. So I tried to imagine it as these modern residential complexes with smaller apartments, but also some terraces on the ground floor and some facilities in the inner yard that residents can enjoy. From there, I continued finalizing some of the residential areas in Eterna City, mostly cleaning up layouts and filling in the remaining gaps. Once that was almost done, I wanted to reimagine the entrance roundabout coming in from Route 205. Rather than leaving it as a standard intersection, I decided to make it a bit more special, both visually and functionally, since I'm planning to have more bike traffic in the future. And I wanted to make sure the layout could accommodate that too. So I played around with the design, added some structure to the intersection, and I think the result turned out pretty cool. Definitely better than just basic roundabout. After that, I jumped into last two areas of development, which I'll go through pretty quickly. These were mostly low-rise Japanese residential houses placed on the outskirts of Eterna City. It's a style I've used earlier in the build, and here I just wanted to make sure it remained consistent and helped ground the city with some realistic suburban edges, but they add a lot to the overall cohesion and feel of Eterna City.
Let's go.
And now, after adding some final extra details to this roundabout, we're heading into the final section of the episode, where I'll be building one of the last floor-based structures in Eterna City, the Team Galactic building. Now, to be clear, this isn't main HQ of Team Galactic. That's actually located in Veilstone City, which we'll be developing in some future, but this building in Eterna still plays an important role in the story. It's one of their key regional outposts and the place where you first start to realize what Team Galactic is up to in Sinnoh region. So I wanted to give it a strong, distinct look, something that stands out from the rest of the city and contrasts with Eterna's more natural and peaceful vibe. So let's take a look at how I designed it and placed this building to make it feel like a significant but slightly ominous presence within the city. So when I started designing the Team Galactic building here in Eterna City, I knew I wanted it to have a very distinct look, something that completely contrasts with the rest of the city's cozy nature integrated aesthetic. And this building is intentionally designed to stand out, not just in style but also in scale, and it's the tallest structure in Eterna, and its presence feels bold, cold, and very corporate. While working on it, I was actually partially inspired by the series Severance, especially the circular parking design from Lumen Industries. That concept really stuck with me and I wanted to incorporate something similar into the build. So I created a circular parking layout that wraps around the base of the building, making it visually distinct, especially when viewed from above. At the center is this very sleek and ominous structure that gives off strong corporate villain energy. If you look closely, there is also an industrial section tucked behind it. That is where Team Galactic might be running more secretive operations of their own, possibly bordering on illegal but hard to prove. This location was also chosen very deliberately. In the games you can't even enter this building unless you learn COD, so I wanted to reflect that by placing it in a secluded area. It is surrounded by a stream and railway, making access limited and controlled. It was really fun to design because it gave me a chance to create something that feels like a real-world villain corporation, not underground in a cartoonish way, but fully present in the city, operating in the gray area. Something that's powerful, secretive, and wealthy enough to build a landmark of this scale, yet still makes people wonder what's really going on inside. It is kind of tension between appearance and intent that I wanted this building to capture, and I think it ended up being one of the strongest visual landmarks in all of Eterna City. After finishing the Team Galactic's building and adding some final touches, I moved on to the small uphill section leading towards Route 211 and eventually into Mountain Coronet Range. I imagined this area could house a few Japanese-style buildings nestled in the rising terrain. And with that done, I focused on adding final touches and detailing the city's layout, polishing the gym area, and dyeing all the little elements that make Eterna City feel complete. And that brings us towards the end of this episode. Of course, I will show you the cinematic shots and you can get a full look at the city in its final form. Before we jump into that, I want to make a special announcement and share a quick thank you to all my patrons that you'll see on the screen right now. Your support means a lot, and honestly, without it, this series would be much harder to keep going, so thank you truly. Also, a quick update on the series. I've recently started a part-time activity, and it means I won't be able to dedicate as much time to city building and episode editing as I did before, so you can expect slightly slower releases going forward. That said, I still plan to present the cities in fully developed form, focusing on the lore-heavy, detailed and visually interesting parts of the build. I'll skip over more mechanical or repetitive aspects, so every episode stays meaningful and enjoyable. And in the next episode, I'll be coming back to develop more of the surroundings of Eterna City, including Eterna Forest, some agricultural zones, and a few lore-specific structures that I intentionally saved for later. If you enjoyed this episode and want to support this project, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It really helps the series grow and lets me know if you are enjoying this journey through a reimagined Sinnoh region. And with that, let's get into the cinematics. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.